From out of the west, in a cloud of dust, a thunder of hooves, and a mighty...
Great Scott.
I know, this is heavy.
Indians!
This summer, Marty and Doc go back one more time for their greatest adventure of all. Doc's living in the past.
Don't try it, Tenant!
But he's about to be history.
What kind of a future do you call that?
I'm going back to 1885, and I'm bringing you home.
It's the last roundup.
Come on, run!
It's the final showdown,
Hey, lighten up, jerk!
where Marty makes a name for himself.
What's your name, dude?
Eastwood. Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Doc meets his mate.
You saved my life.
Emmett Brown at your service.
And Tannen meets his match.
I'll hunt you and shoot you down like a duck.
It's Dog Buford. Shoot him down like a dog.
Michael J. Fox.
Where'd you learn to shoot like that?
7-Eleven.
Christopher Lloyd.
There's a fella that can't hold his liquor.
And Mary Steenburgen.
I never ever met a man like you before.
Gentlemen, excuse me, but my friend and I have to catch the train.
This summer, Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis invite you
Come on, Marty!
to the Rough Rider. Rip roaring, rootin' tootin', straight shooting,
Just a hold up! It's a science experiment!
rousing conclusion of Back to the Future.
Let the festivities begin! Yeah! Yeah!
Back to the Future, Part 3.
And welcome back to the Movie Hero Network. This is Wheel of Movies, episode number 65. And tonight we are discussing Back to the Future, Part 3. I am Austin Pez Howell. And as always, Richie Goodacre is joining me. How's it going, Richie?
Yeah, going good. I thought we would get to these movies eventually. Looks like you might be getting to them in backwards order, maybe.
Yeah. I thought about the same thing today. I'm like, I wonder if it's going to be those things where we do this one, and then like a couple months from now, we spin the second one, and then we spin the first one, and we just go backwards. So
no, should be fun. To relive these in reverse. Good time rewatching this, and it was certainly a very trailer of the time, where it sort of like just tells you what's gonna happen without telling you what's gonna happen.
Yeah, join us in the theater for what should be the best adventure of the season. So in some ways, I kind of miss those trailers. You don't get trailers like that anymore, like at all.
No.
You don't get the voiceover guy. It's just very much like here's a couple of scenes, and
it's now it's a cheap cover of a popular song, and a segment of it is played throughout the trailer, depending on what the movie is, and then that's your movie, and there's a couple of clips, and that's your movie, and sometimes it runs for too long, so you see the movie. And that's the trailer. But I must admit, the trailer guy.
So we spin Back to the Future Part 3, and luckily, this is a movie I've seen 8,000 times, and same with this whole this trilogy. So, it's not like I'm jumping in and oh my God, I'm lost. I'm starting with Part 3. I think most people out there, if you've seen this one, you've probably seen the other ones, dozens and dozens of times. So we're jumping right now. We should say off the bat, this was a really weird coincidence, and we swear this is absolutely true. What we're about to tell you, Richie knows what I'm going into. So this about 2 weeks ago, we go to spin the wheel, and this was off air. So this was post tournament fights. Richie was there, Jordan Anderson was there, I believe, even like Jonathan Carroll. Yeah. So a couple of people, not just us. So we have witnesses. You can message them and ask them. So this is off the air. we're like, oh yeah, before we go, let's spin the wheel and do that. So Brian Nussbaum has been bugging us because about a day or two before this, James Tolkien passed away. A man who was, very recognizable character actor from this series and other movies. Top Gun and Masters of the Universe. He plays Strickland in these movies. So Mr. Strickland in this particular movie, Marshall Strickland, etc. But we, Richie and I kind of talked off there. We're kind of like, look. I mean, he's a fun part of these movies, but it's not really like a meaty role. There's not a lot to like dig into, with him personally. He doesn't really have a lot of those like standout movies. He was never like the main villain or like, a primary character in all these movies. He was just kind of a side guy in a lot of movies, which is perfectly fine. I like my character actors, as much as the next person, but in cases of character actors we've done like Michael Madsen or Kerry Tagawa or some of these guys, like they had meaty roles you can dig into in other movies, right? Very recognizable kind of big parts. And James Tolkien just didn't have that. So we're like, listen, I don't think we're going to do a tribute episode, but hey, we'll mention it, on Wheel of Movies or whatever, just as a side thing. So we got to spin this wheel, like right after we talk about that, and we spin the wheel. And I swear this is true. We spun Back to the Future Part 3, and we were joking, like we literally joked right before that. We're like, Back to the Future movies are all over this wheel, so like maybe we will spin it. And we just happened to spin Back to the Future Part 3. So it was, and we all just like laughed our asses off like the whole time, just like, man, what a damn coincidence. So yes, we should acknowledge James Tolkien is in this movie. This is not an official tribute episode though, like it's not a tribute episode of James Tolkien. We can talk about him briefly because he is briefly in this movie, but again, Richie, and you'd agree, he has like 5 minutes worth of screen time. Strickland is a fun character, but like he doesn't have like a lot to do with the plot of these movies or anything like that. You know what I mean? No, it's look,
it's I mean, it worked out. We're going to talk about James Tolkien anyway. He's only got 5 minutes, so so it's not a tribute episode, but hey, we get to talk about him anyway, and it's just one of those weird things with the wheel, and I don't know. It was kind of interesting, kind of funny, way things shook out there. But yeah, so in a roundabout way, you get your wish, Brian.
And a roundabout way, you feel free to comment and say, I knew you guys would do one eventually or come around to my line. I think, look, we didn't really plan it that way, but hey, if you want to, in your head canon, put it that way, that's fine. You can do whatever you think.
The thing is, statistically, if you look at like actors, majority of actors are, especially the majority of actors are character actors. Like statistically, there's a lot of character actors. So statistically, there's going to be a lot of the character actors who've been, things one thing or another who are going to pass. So if we start to do every character actor, we'd just be a tribute show. It wouldn't be Wheel of Movies. So.
When we do this tribute, it needs to be somebody that's pretty recognizable, either by name or, again, if it was a character actor, they need to have at least a couple of those roles that really stood out, like a Michael Madsen in a Reservoir Dogs or a Kill Bill or something, or like Kerry Tagawa, who was like the primary villain in Mortal Kombat, the main part, that had meaty roles that you can kind of dig into, in addition to those smaller roles throughout their career. So, we kind of just have to feel it out, it depends on what it does. So we kind of know, like, when something happens, like, if we'll do it or not. It's just kind of a gut instinct thing. So, but anyway, so we'll get to him and the rest of the movie and his, again, he has just kind of a brief part in this movie. We'll talk about it when we get there. So we are discussing Back to the Future Part 3, directed by Robert Zemeckis, as are the other two Back to the Future films. Released in May 24th, 1990. And I think as most people are pretty well aware of, if you're a a general movie fan, this was filmed simultaneously with part two. So when they went into production, they were filming part two and three back to back simultaneously over an 11-month period. So they filmed part two. They essentially took like almost a month off, like about 3 to 4 weeks off for the crew, but kept the exact same crew, the stunt people, the post production people, everything, and essentially just moved on to filming part three right back to back. And this actually ended up saving the studio, Universal, a lot of money, because it would have cost an additional $15 or $20 million to then go back, and kind of rehire everybody and kind of set everything at a later date. But they already had the story idea for two to kind of blend into part three. They had everything laid out with the scripts and whatnot. So the combined budget of the whole production, Richie, was $40 million, which is not that bad. And given the fact that then both movies made over $200 million a piece, it ended up being very profitable for the studio here. So, and something that would, again, I think even more famously, maybe later down the line, I'm sure you're familiar with, Richie, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy did the same thing. Peter Jackson filmed all three back to back, all in one shot.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, I mean, people, they sort of like we're not big fans, but Wicked did that. Wicked one part two, they did it back to back. It makes sense. You got everybody there, just saves money, and then you can maximize profits, which is it definitely in 2026 is something more than ever that they want to do. So, it makes all sense in the world. So paid off.
Yeah, for sure. They like that money. And no, the Matrix 2 and 3 did the same thing, Reloaded and Revolutions, which is why if you saw this part two back in November of 1989, as you would see even on the video releases, you got a teaser trailer at the end of the movie for part three, which if you remember, Matrix Reloaded did the same thing. If you saw Matrix Reloaded in theaters, which you probably did, Richie, and saw Revolution had a teaser right at the end of it and then came out about 6 months later. This was the same thing. In November of 89, you saw part two. It said to be concluded, but then they played like a 1-minute teaser, which again, pretty cool for at the time to be like, oh, hey, the movie's already done and it's coming, sweet. And then you didn't have to wait that long. You just had to wait till May of the following year to get that movie. So not a huge gap, just like a 6-month gap, ready to come out.
This reference, this movie reference is totally dips in quality to what we just talked about, but The Strangers, right? Did they film like 2 and 3 back to back?
Well, they filmed 2 and 3 back to back, but then did reshoots on 2 and 3 when part one underperformed and everybody crapped all over it. So then went back and they had to scrounge up more money to then reshoot a lot of the aspects of part 2 and 3. So yes, kind of in a way, he did that.
Yeah, because I watched. So I watched part two recently, and after part two, it tells you what's going to happen in part three. It's basically oh, stay tuned for the next one, and you're like, okay, well, you just gave away what's happening in part three. I don't even know what part. So that's when I'm like, oh, they filmed it already?
Yeah. I think they overestimated the love people were going to have for those Strangers movies by filming 3 straight up front. Maybe you should have just filmed the 1. See how that goes, and then maybe greenlight a sequel, as these studios tend to do. And here's the thing with that, not to get off on a tangent, but horror movies sometimes don't take that long to film. There's a lot of horror movies that come out with a sequel a year later. I mean, we saw it for years in the 80s with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and all kinds. Slasher movies are not the most, hardcore, intense, movies. Filmmaking wise, with massive special effects and gigantic, crews and whatnot. So I don't see why they couldn't have just filmed part 1 of The Strangers, see how it went, maybe see some of that, and then, then retool the script and do a part 2 a year or two later. It seems kind of silly to do it straight up with 3 parts.
Part 1 is predominantly in one location. Isn't it predominantly in one location?
Yeah, basically.
In that cabin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. You live and learn, hopefully. Anyhow,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you're essentially taking a gamble, even with this part three. You're banking on people enjoying part two. You already have the third one in the can. But I think at least with this one, you had part one, which was already a massive success of the box office, had already been a huge success on home video, and so there was already goodwill towards this franchise, not bad will towards the franchise. The first one was very much beloved,
Yeah,
so they at least had that, and you were still bringing back the same director, the same writer, again, the same crew, the same cast. So I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't going to dip that much in quality. Even if people didn't like it as much as the first one, I still
yeah,
think, and time has shown that these movies are pretty beloved at this point, like the whole trilogy. And also I want to point out one of the few trilogies, Richie, that has stayed a trilogy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's. I mean, we could probably get into it. There's been talk. But talk over the years on and off about a fourth one, but it's just like, yeah, like it's not, yeah. But like they were pretty vehement, like after it finished, that there wasn't gonna be, that there wasn't gonna be a fourth one. Even the trailer for the third one was, made it clear it's like, oh, so the last stand or whatever the terminology they use. But yeah, it was just like, but yeah, I mean, they're on and off when they was talking about that, or like like a remake. I think Tom Holland talked about, like, he was approached in 2020 about being Marty McFly in a remake, and he to his credit, he wasn't really that keen because he didn't think they should remake it.
Yeah, even he was like, bro, I don't really want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. You know what I mean? Like, look, I know, like, you guys like me, and it would be a big movie, but like, even he's just like, I think he realized he didn't even want just the residual backlash he would have gotten just from being a part of a remake, of such a
Yeah,
beloved movie. Yeah.
yeah. There was a Telltale
The video game. Yeah.
PC game, which is sort of like the closest thing to like a sequel you're probably gonna get. And it's such a pretty decent. But
Mhm.
yeah, as far as like, I just, yeah, but yeah, like there, I don't think there was never any really concrete plans to do a fourth one. And like, there's, I mean, you hear talk on and off talks about like remakes and stuff, but I feel like that, if they were going to do a remake, they would have done it by now. I just feel like even money hungry people are like, oh no, you can't.
You just can't. Yeah, just do, if you're gonna do a time travel movie, just do some other time travel movie or something. Just do something else. Like,
Yeah, there's plenty other
yeah.
ones. Do the, I don't know, do the, time machine or something.
Yeah, do a remake of Time After Time, with Malcolm McDowell, or there's other movies you could do, to exploit the other things you can reboot, and it wouldn't be that big a deal. So
Yeah.
we'll maybe touch on that again at the very end, kind of like saying, but just a couple quick things, and we'll kind of get into it. I mentioned the 40 million combined budget for this one. The box office of this one in particular, $245 million. So nice hefty profit in 1990. It was the sixth highest grossing movie of 1990. I'll get into some of the other highest grossing movies here in a little bit. But yeah, the entire set of Hill Valley, the western town, was built from scratch. They just found the piece of open land, built the whole thing from the ground up. So everything you see, was hand built with no kind of previous setting or backlot settings, anything like that. Obviously, a lot of the buildings were kind of hollow, just built as buildings with nothing inside of them, other than the actual saloon setting was, they built the inside of that to actually shoot on. A few of the sets to actually go into, such as that, the blacksmith shop, things like that were actually built to then, go into it, of course. But when you build it from scratch, ground up, you can prepare for that and have that ready to go. So yeah, everything was built from scratch. And again, I appreciate the practical set design. It's really cool and it looks great. Better than, nowadays where it just be a green screen or just, all kind of stuff like that. So I still appreciate all the effort that was put into it. There was a ranch in Sonora, California that they filmed some other additional stuff on, such as the things where Doc and Claire are like talking, about Jules Verne at night, some of the other kind of surrounding settings, things like that. They filmed some stuff at, but again, all practical locations. A lot of the train stuff was filmed at what they call a movie railroad in Jamestown, kind of a railroad park that has an old steam train that they were able to film some stuff on, kind of back and forth. So a lot of those shots where you just see the steam train going back and forth, all shot there. and with a real steam train. We'll get into the actual one that they destroyed and whatnot. That was, of course, was a model, but we'll get into that, of course. Like I said, an 11-month shoot, 3 weeks off, kind of in the middle of the two movies, and then they're right back to it. And interestingly enough, Robert Zemeckis, as they were doing principal photography on part 3, and right near the end, as they were doing filming a lot of the train stuff and the climax and whatnot, he was flying back and forth between Northern California, where they were filming this, and going back to Burbank every single day for about 3 weeks, because they were putting him and Bob Gale were putting the final touches on the edit of part 2. So he was going back and forth on the final sound dubbing and the final sound mixing, things like that, and the final edits before part 2 was wrapped. So he was literally flying back and forth every night. He would like conclude wrapping at like 5 or 6 p.m. On part 3. He would take a private jet back to Burbank. They would have a dinner ready for him in kind of a studio. They'd edit for a couple of hours, 4 or 5 hours. He would sleep for like 4 hours, get right back up to the Burbank airport, and fly back out to North California. So kind of a crazy shoot. And it actually reminds me, Steven Spielberg did a similar thing pretty famously on the set of Schindler's List. He was editing Jurassic Park, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
It's probably why those two kind of worked. I mean, it's presented by Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis. I guess that they're kind of in tandem. They work together. They probably have the similar work ethic, similar work kind of vibe. So I mean, that sounds exhausting, man. But people, in order sometimes you just gotta. You gotta be a workaholic or whatever, or have that crazy sort of work mentality to get shit done. Like much can be said about him personally, but I'm reading like Natalia's book in Delavine right now, and everyone talks about how Vince never gets any sleep and he would go. But no, man, it's just exhausting to even read, but I understand the hustle.
I mean, you do what you got to do, and then you take some time off right afterwards. You know what I mean? I think he took a year off before he eventually did Death Becomes Her. I think it was his next movie, the Bruce Willis, the Goldie Hawn movie. Yeah. So, but that wasn't until 1992. So I think he took a year off, a much deserved little break before he jumped into his next project. So, So a few more things. Most of the crew, and again, they had the same crew, most of the same crew from the first movie. So a lot of the same production crew, art designers, stunt crew, everything like that. A lot of them have talked about they were super excited to actually shoot on a Western. So especially the second half of the shoot to actually do this Western and be out kind of in the open country. They said even though it was kind of a tough shoot kind of out in the middle of nowhere where they were doing it, they said it was actually kind of relaxing in a way, kind of a cool laid back setting, working on a Western, so it felt like kind of old Hollywood. They filmed a lot of the same techniques that they used to do. And especially the stunt people have talked about a lot of them had training in like horse riding and horse stunts and some of the stuff, and had never been able to employ it in a lot of the movies. So they were finally able to kind of use some of those skills here on this shoot, shooting an old school Western. So a lot of the stunt riding scenes you'll see, jumping on and off the trains and, all the kind of stuff like that, they really enjoyed.
Yeah, that must be annoying because it's like you learn that skill, and then like around this time, and I mean you still get Westerns and stuff, but and especially even like today, there's not like it's not like that, like it's not like the 60s, 70s or whatever, where there's like a boatload of Westerns coming out.
Yeah.
Boatload of horse riding and horse stunts that need to be performed. It's just like it's every now and then. And I think what was the last Western that came? Like, was it the Kevin Costner movie that came out that
Horizon.
It's just like it's not like it'd be cool stunt to kind of like learn to perfect, but were they going to actually put that into practice? It's like you're going to be sitting around for a while.
Well, and even in stuff like when the ones you had in the 90s, I just went to the theater a few weeks ago and watched Unforgiven. There's not like a bunch of stunts in that movie. Like any of the scenes you have with horses, it's just Clint Eastwood or Morgan Freeman just kind of slowly galloping along, and it's just them, it's not like stunt riding, but like you said, in this movie, they're riding along trains, hopping on and off things. They're, they're galloping off, cutting people off the pass and whatnot. It's very much like that old school kind of cowboy stunt riding, and it's fun.
Yeah, they're trying to like power they're trying to get as many horses like to full speed as they can to power the locomotive. So that's the power of the train. So there's a lot of but you don't see that much anymore. So it's kind of, but I don't know. Well, I like horse related stunts.
Yeah, no, I for sure. No, it's a lot of fun. Let's see. Michael J. Fox in the scene where he was being hung by Buford Tannen. As this has happened a couple of times in Hollywood history, he was really hung for a minute there in one shot and went unconscious briefly. Same thing happened, by the way, if you know the story about Brendan Fraser on The Mummy. When he actually went unconscious and nearly broke his neck on the hanging scene in that movie. So maybe take a little more caution when you're doing these hanging scenes, Hollywood. Maybe I don't need to see the full shot of the people hanging. Like, it's fine. I believe you. Just do the close-ups and do it safely. It's fine. They asked Clint Eastwood, the actual actor, for his permission to use his his name in the movie, because obviously it's a prominent plot point that he calls himself Clint Eastwood in the movie, and he gave his permission. He said he took it as an honor, like he thought it was funny that they were kind of using his name as kind of a punchline, and he took it as an honor, and he was a friend to a lot of the crew members and whatnot, so he was totally cool with it, and he thought it was nice, a nice kind of tribute to him. And one last thing, I mean, there's a ton of callbacks and Easter eggs. I won't get into all of them, but mostly kind of production related stuff. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, who was featured in the movie, of course, as the band, playing at the festival. They do a song on the soundtrack, a little bit of music here and there. There was a moment on set where they were kind of waiting to get things set up with that staging area and kind of waiting to shoot some stuff. And there was a problem with one of the cameras. So there was like a lens had broken and then something had gone wrong with one of the primary cameras. So they're like, okay, we need to halt production for a minute, get this taken care of. And ZZ Top was like already ready, set up, and everybody was kind of hanging around. Michael J. Fox asked him, he's like, hey, while we're waiting, can you guys play Hey Good Looking, real quick? So, they played a quick song and then turned into a thing where somebody else then requested one of their older songs, and then somebody else requested a song, and somebody else requested a song, and it basically became an impromptu ZZ Top kind of party concert. And
can you play Shotguns, Man?
Yeah, can you play Legs? Can you play? So they ended up just playing a whole bunch of stuff, and then literally, he said like an hour and a half or 2 hours later, they had just been partying and having a good time. The crew was having a blast. They were just playing it almost like a concert for everybody. He stops and goes, "Hey, Robert, is the camera thing fixed?" He's like, "Oh, we fixed it like an hour ago. We were just letting you guys have a party." So apparently, a kind of a fun impromptu thing that happened on set. It sounds like a good time. So they played along with, and it's fun to see them in there with they don't need fake beards, that's for sure. They have them genuinely long, giant beards and other stuff in there. So
they're the one. They're a group that you can never be like even if when I go, oh no, I'm thinking about shaving. No, you can't shave. You can never shave. That's your look.
Yeah. No, never, ever. A couple of quick things. So around the box office of May of 1990, what was tooling around your multiplex around that time? It had actually come out in March, but it was still the number one movie of May. Pretty Woman, big giant hit for a couple of months.
That's huge. If it's still number one,
it was still number one 2 months later in May. So still at the top of the box office. Big hit at the time. Bird on a Wire, really high at the box office in 1990.
Mel Gibson, Goldie Hawn.
Mel Gibson movie. Yep. So go Back to the Future 3. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, doing very well. Coming out also in March and still doing quite well in May. A few months later, got Cadillac Man. Up there. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, the anthology film. Another one that came out in March that was still hanging around, Hunt for Red October, with Sean Connery, of course, and Alec Baldwin. We called The Guardian, Q&A, got Firebirds, a couple of movies, not like the highest of highs, but personally, you also have Ernest Goes to Jail came out around this time as well. So one for me. We've had more interesting months at the box office with some crazier stuff hanging around, but a few notable movies. So there you go. All right. So yeah, let's get into it. Again, we don't have to go like kind of scene by scene. I think a lot of people have seen this movie. We'll just kind of talk sort of generally about where the characters are and some of the main plot points. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a continuation of part two, which I will say to this day is still one of the great, I think, cliffhangers in movie history. The cliffhanger at the end of part two, where Doc gets hit by the lightning, and then it's kind of the shocking moment, and then the guy pulls up with the black trench coat and the black hat, pulls up and is your name Marty? Marty McFly, and he's like reaching his thing. You're like, oh my god, what the hell's going on? And he pulls out the letter, from Doc, and I think it's one of the coolest kind of cliffhangers ever that you find out like he's in the Old West and he's got to go back and get him. I still love that cliffhanger to this day, the way it's kind of staged and put together. Really cool moment.
It's definitely. Yeah, it gets you hyped up, and because they sort of back to back, it's not like a these days, especially on TV, when you're like, oh, I can't wait for season 2 in 2 years.
Yeah.
So that you get it. You don't have to wait that long. So it was a really cool cliffhanger, and great sort of great payoff as well. So yeah.
And there are a few nods even throughout the movie, if you catch them, that they're going to go to the Old West in the third one. If you remember that second one, they have like the Biff Tannen Museum at the hotel, and it shows a little bit of like Buford in the clip, the Mad Dog, or that he would like to live in the Old West or something, has a dream of that, whatnot. So there's a few little nods if you're catching them, and then of course you get to this third one. The setup is essentially he catches up with 55 Doc Brown. We've got to go find a DeLorean that he buried in a mine for 70 years so that they would have access to it. Need to make some repairs because obviously you can't make certain different electronic pieces and things like that are not available in 1885, so he's got to just kind of hang out in the Old West and let them find it later.
Mm-hmm. I definitely enjoyed the we'll get more into it, but I enjoyed the West and like setting, and I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed in the mine. I thought I thought there was going to be more maybe action set pieces in the mine, but I like the way it was shot. But yeah.
No, it's like kind of a mystery, kind of discovering, all this stuff, like finding some kind of hidden treasure, in this mine, kind of following the clues and finding it, pretty cool. And you think it's gonna be just a setup where he's like, oh, we're gonna find this thing and we'll figure it out and we'll get you, back home. Einstein, must have smelled something, or he smelled something who's all, dogs know things, because he finds the tombstone of Emmett Brown, and it says he died, essentially about a week after he wrote the letter, that he was shot to death by Buford Tannen. Although to be fair, I think if they had found the same tombstone, but it was like that Doc died of natural causes like 20 years later, I don't think they would have panicked. It's only because he gets shot like a week after he writes the letter that they have to go back. Like if it had been like, here lies Emmett Brown, died in 1909 with his beloved by his side or something like that,
okay.
Okay. Doc would have been like, oh, okay, so I get to spend like 20 retirement years in the Old West. That's fine.
I lived a good life. That's fine. That's good. But it's just the fact that he got shot by he got murdered essentially by his arch, like an enemy. Like, no, that can't happen. What's that?
So no, it sounds particularly brutal. So we're doing what we got to do to get the time machine kind of back in order, and even against Doc's wishes, he's going to go back and try to get him. So just a few little quick Easter eggs, for the sequence where they're at the drive-in movie theater that I wanted to point out for anybody who never noticed. Two things in particular. When he comes out with the ridiculous outfit that he's got on with like the pink, cowboy clothing and whatnot, just this terrible clothing, that you only see in like he's basically wearing stuff that you had in like old Roy Rogers movies. You've ever seen any of those types of things?
I haven't seen the movie, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like just like more of like the musical westerns, of like the 50s, that sort of thing, which is probably, in all honesty, what Doc is thinking about. He's not thinking about sort of traditional sort of John Wayne westerns. He's probably the one he's ones he's familiar with is like either that or when like comedians would go on TV as cowboys, and wear flamboyant outfits. That's what he's thinking about.
He was watching at one point. He was watching the Howdy Doody show, whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's probably whatever he's seen on TV and like variety shows, not necessarily. I don't think Doc goes to the movies that much, so he's not familiar with what actual cowboys would wear. But yeah, there's 2 posters on the wall for like coming attractions, both for Revenge of the Creature and Tarantula, both co-starring Clint Eastwood. So just pointing that out there if you never noticed that. And they're very early movies before he was famous. So he literally in both movies is like 10th build or something. I think in Tarantula he plays like a jet pilot that bombs the tarantula. In Revenge of the Creature, he's just one of the guys on the boat or something, like 8th build. So they're very early roles before. He would get cast on Rawhide, the Western TV show, not long after 1955, I think around 57 or 58, and then would do a few little roles, but he wouldn't get into Fistful of Dollars till 65. So that's so it took a little while to get there. So in 1955 they would not know who Clint Eastwood is. You haven't heard of him yet. And then another quick note: if you notice when Marty speeds off, Doc has his revolver and he's shooting the gun off a couple of times, like in celebration. This is why in Back to the Future Part 1, he doesn't have any bullets in his gun to shoot back at the Libyans. Because he shot all the bullets and he never reloaded it. So it's a nice little kind of throwback if you're paying attention as to why when he goes to fire back at the Libyans in the first one, he doesn't have any ammo in his gun because he forgot to reload it. So he used up all of his bullets. Just a quick thing I'd like to point out. So he quickly speeds off. He runs into he blasts through the wall. Immediately runs into a bunch of Indians, a bunch of Native Americans running around. Yeah, this was a local tribe from a reservation in California, that they got for the movie to ride the horses and whatnot. Same thing with the cavalry. In that same sequence, they got Civil War reenactors, a whole troop of Civil War reenactors who had their own uniforms, authentic, and knew how to ride horses, had their old, bugles and things like that, so they just hired like a Civil War reenactment group to do that as well.
Again, just saving money. People know doing stuff. You don't have to go out and finding,
actors and extras, like just hire the Civil War reenactors from Georgia and bring them on in for a day. Have them bring their own the authentic uniforms they already have from the time period, and they shoot for a day, and there you go. You got your shot. So so it works. But during the process, he rips the fuel line and damages the DeLorean a little bit, so that causes a problem that he doesn't really think about at the time. It's going to cause a problem because the engine still runs on gasoline, and they don't have means of making gasoline, so it's going to be a problem. He runs from a bear. He runs into Seamus and Maggie McFly, played by Michael J. Fox and Leah Thompson. What do you think about this running gag, Richie, in these movies of like having the ancestors or the people in the future or the past always played by the same actor? Does it work or no? What do you think?
It does. It kind of delves into like kind of parody territory sometimes, like very like very like Dewey. I'm thinking like Dewey Cox. I was thinking, kind of that vibe, but it's also kind of, I don't know, so kind of cute and kind of in that way as well. It's just. So I don't mind it, but I can understand why people in the same thing. It's like a time I'm like, it is. I don't know. It does get it. At the same time, it is a bit. It's a bit like out there and a bit. It kind of. It sort of teeters on the brink of being a bit too silly.
Because I understand that that kids or grandkids can have resemblance to their parents or grandparents. I mean, we see it right now where there's a resemblance, but it's not like exactly the same. If you look at somebody like a Ray Nicholson right now acting, he definitely in certain shots and certain angles and whatnot resembles a very young Jack Nicholson. You know what I mean? Like there is stuff where he looks like 70s Jack Nicholson, right? But he's not like a splitting image. He's not a carbon copy like a clone. Same with like Lewis Pullman right now looks a lot like 80s Bill Pullman, 1980s Bill Pullman, but it's not like exact copies. But I think at the same time, when they did part 2, and you've got like Tom Wilson playing Griff, in the future, or you've got him playing the son, the younger Marty, Marty Jr. and whatnot. I think it was just kind of a thing there, and it's like, just why not? It could be like a joke that they're all, look almost exactly the same, because I think at some point though, wouldn't you go like, hey, Seamus looking at Marty just being like, man, this guy looks literally exactly like me without the mustache. Like, what's going on here?
It looks a lot like me. It's conspiracy. And then, but just I never get over the too. Obviously, with time difference is like, he's like, they got the. They got the baby, and it says, great grandfather. It's like, oh, you're my great grandfather. It's like, but it's like a baby, he pees on him. And
like, little baby pees on him. Yeah, little William McFly. Although, when you stop to think about it, you go, okay, so at what point did the Michael J. Fox line of people end and Crispin Glover begin, and then it goes back to Michael J. Fox? Because if you think about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Because it's Michael J. Fox. And then Leah Thompson playing Maggie McFly. Well, isn't that more tuning towards the mother-son thing in part 1 that doesn't make sense, as to what kind of offspring they would have? So, it's a little odd.
It kind of hurts my brain a bit when I think about
it. Because realistically, shouldn't it be Crispin Glover or the other guy playing Seamus, and it make more sense in the line of succession? I don't know. It's something like that. But don't think about it too hard.
We only have Crispin Glover in certain, like, in small doses.
Yeah. I could see Crispin Glover in this movie coming in and doing like an Irish accent. I don't know if that quite works. So he stops and has a little chat with them, moves on. And goes to find the doc in Hill Valley. Again, I like how they set up this Western town. Everything's very practical, very real. A lot of the extras, it looks very, very cool, very authentic. You got like the place where they're getting the hot baths and the barber shop. You've got the butcher and the Undertaker. Not that Undertaker, but other Undertakers with the tombstone. Although it would have been funny if you had actually gotten like Mark. He wasn't the Undertaker yet, so I guess you couldn't have got him. That would have been
a funny joke. Me, Mark Callis. I think.
So if you make this movie a few years later and you actually had the Undertaker like cutting tombstones, that would have been funny. He goes to the bar, and a lot of these guys in the bar, for anybody who doesn't know, a lot of the character actors that pop up in this movie are veteran Western actors. So a lot of the guys sitting around the around the saloon. You got the bartender is Matt Clark, who is in a bunch of Clint Eastwood westerns, especially like Outlaw Josie Wales, High Plains Drifter. I think he even plays the bartender in Outlaw Josie Wales, if I remember right. So he's a veteran Western actor. The three main guys kind of sitting around, that table laughing at Marty every time he comes in there. Pat Buttram, Harry Carey Jr., and Dub Taylor. Again, all guys who, if you look up their Wikipedias or IMDb, it's just endless of like TV shows and movies, these character actors. And they were on every one of those old school Western shows, your Bonanzas and your Gunsmokes, Rawhides, all that kind of stuff, just in there, once every couple of episodes playing a town drunk or playing a townie or something like that. So very much like going out of their way to get authentic character actors. You've got Bertrand Gillian, who is from Blazing Saddles. He's the guy who does the Colt Peacemaker like shooting gallery thing. From Blazing Saddles, he plays Lyle, so I recognized him pretty much immediately. Donovan Scott, Bill McKinney. So all these like very kind of recognizable character actors. You get Richard Dysart, who's the barbed wire salesman guy that talks to him at the bar. He's in The Thing, amongst other things.
Well, this could be because when I said Matt Clark, it triggered me because I was like, it triggered something because I was like, wait, this could also be. We're not doing a tribute episode, but Matt Clark only died last month.
Yeah. He died March of this year. So I remember seeing an article about that he had passed away. So yeah, it's kind of a dual Matt Clark, James Tolkien episode, and I think he's a lot of fun. As the bartender, I think he's having a good time. He's kind of playing. I think he knows exactly what movie he's in. Obviously, playing Chester. His interactions with Buford Tannen. No, sir, Mr. Tannen, I have not. All that when he's trying to sober up Doc here near the end of Joey, let's make some wake up juice, and it's like Tabasco and pickle juice and all kinds of nonsense. That they're putting together. Whatnot. Again, it's not a huge role, but the reason you get these character actors, Richie, and why I love character actors is they make the most out of their screen time, and they make their little parts memorable. The three guys at the table, Harry Carey Jr., the guy on the left, has one of the great laughs ever. One of those types of things. Pat Buttram has a great voice that has been imitated in many like cartoons and whatnot. The guy who's like, everybody everywhere will say Clint Eastwood in the big yellow belly in the West. Like those guys, they make the most out of their lines in their screen time, which is why I love them.
I think Toy Story 2 you hear a lot of like Pat Buttram kind of like with the Western vibes. You hear a lot of that influence. Even like with in Toy Story 4 with Lotso, it kind of sounds like Pat Buttram. The bear kind of sounds like him. So I think he's got a very iconic voice that people when you think of like the Southerner guy, you're like, I'll do a version of him.
Yeah, for sure. You get kind of a lot of those guys. We meet Mad Dog Tannen, Beaver Tannen, and this was, by the way, Tom Wilson, who played. And Tom Wilson, I think, Richie doesn't get enough credit for these movies for how many different versions he plays of like variations of Biff throughout all the movies. Because I think somebody counted up, he plays like, I want to say like 7 or 8 versions when you count it all up of Biff, throughout these movies. But he's great. Like his range between and making them all distinct. You know what I mean? Not just like 50s Biff, but like car waxing Biff, back to the 80s. You've got like the future old man grumpy ass Biff in 2015, Griff, the younger Griff, mechanical Griff in 2015. You've got the Donald Trump-esque alternate Biff, the rich one in 85, and then you've got Buford Tannen. Like his range is crazy because they're all very much different from one another, and he doesn't get enough credit for how great he is in these movies. He's awesome.
No, it's fun, and he had, as we'll get to, good comedic. He's got great comedic timing as well. His lines are very funny. And he's like, I'll fight you later on. We got something on. I'll fight you tomorrow. We're doing Monday. I'll see you Monday.
Tomorrow we're having the Pine City State. What we doing Monday? We got anything going on Monday? No, you can go on. Okay, we'll settle this thing on Monday. And he's still misquoting all the phrases. I'll hunt you and shoot you down like a duck. It's dog beef for shooting. Let's go, boys. Even just the little quick physical moments like when he's counting to 10 outside the saloon, and he loses track for a second, and he just kind of has that look on his face like he looks over 7. Just the little physical bits. He's great. No, he's got great comedic timing because and he is a comedian, by the way. If you've ever seen it, he did stand-up comedy for a long time. That's where I actually met him for the first time was at a stand-up show. He's really good. He modeled his performance after Lee Marvin in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, kind of his swagger and sort of the way he walks and the way he kind of some of his verbalisms, things like that. He has said on record that this version of Biff, if you will, was his favorite to play. He loved being like a Western gunslinger. Like he said, he had a lot of fun. He did a lot of training for this movie. He did all of his own writing. So the stuff where he's chasing Marty and throwing the lasso around, that's all him. He lassoed Michael J. Fox himself. He did that all himself after a ton of training. And all the stuff where he's flicking the gun around. You see this close-up shot right before the duel where he's doing little, twirling the guns and everything. He trained with a real, gun expert, learned how to do that, was constantly doing it on set, so he'd have it perfect. And then when they came to do it, he nailed it. So, props to him for just like really getting into the role too and having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. He's really good in the movie. He definitely stands out. He's fun.
Yeah, no, he's a ton of fun. And yeah, we get kind of the crux of the movie is again solving this problem of Marty and Doc, and again they're kind of back and forth banter, which is great as always. It's great in all three of these movies. That we don't need to go into that. Everybody knows that they're one of the great kind of buddy duos of all time. But yeah, solving this problem that they essentially have a car with no engine, so we got no way to get it up to 88 miles an hour. They try different things. They even blow out another part of the engine, trying like heavy liquor, trying to get the car started, just pouring whatever they can in the engine to try to do what they got to do. Their solution eventually is to put it on the train tracks and use the locomotive to push it up to 88 miles an hour. And so it's this kind of, it's sort of a Mission Impossible heisty thing kind of too, because they've got to like hijack the train essentially, and sneak the car onto the tracks and then figure out a way to get the boiler up and get it done and get it onto this alternate, train track, to push it up to 88 miles an hour. It's a fun kind of little, how do we solve this problem and how do we do this mission? It's fun.
It's very like, it's the combination between like Mission Impossible and Indiana Jones type deal.
Yeah.
It works. It's good. It's good. It's a good. It's very creative and a good action set piece. I like action scenes with trains. It's not enough of them.
Yeah, no, there's really not enough. And when you get usually when you get train action set pieces, Richie, it's like the plot of the movie, like an Unstoppable or something like that, like where it's like the entire movie. It's not just like, oh, we have this little chunk of whatever. But yeah, maybe that's why I liked Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning so much. Speaking of Mission Impossible, where they have that whole train sequence at the end of that movie, with the out of control train, and having to, skydive essentially onto the train, and when it's kind of slowly going off the cliff and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, I like a good train sequence. It's fun. Sit on the track. Yeah, we don't get enough of them. I agree.
Yeah, more train things, please.
Yeah, more good train stuff. So, and the other aspect we haven't talked about, of course, is that Doc gets a little subplot, and he finally gets a romantic interest, which it's fun that we've kind of done, and the filmmakers talk about this. We've done a lot of what we can do with the Marty character. So the fact that in this movie we kind of focus more on the Doc character, and we give him a little more meat on the bones, and we let Christopher Lloyd, kind of have a little more dramatic scenes with Clara Clayton, his romantic interest in this, played by Mary Steenburgen, who comes in as Clara. What do you think about Clara in this movie and their kind of romance they have back and forth through the whole thing?
I thought it was I thought it was good. It's very fortunate because isn't like that they know the name Claire, or like she's got a. They know he's got a, he must have some, that he must fall for somebody, and there's name Claire, but she's not in the story yet. And then just as they're kind of kind of thinking about this, it's like, oh yeah, that woman is coming to town, that it's Claire. Oh, so it was very fortunate. That was a very fortunate set of circumstances, but yeah, it was. I thought that their dynamic was kind of cute, and they bond over. I like the whole. It's like, they bond over Jules Verne, and he's like, I read I used to read 10,000
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea when I was a kid. He's like, that's really funny. That was published 10 years ago. I'm like, oh man, it made me feel like a boy. Yeah.
You almost gave yourself away there, Doc. Watch your trailer.
So and just it's good. I thought it was. I mean, I'm skipping ahead, but the kids they name their kids Jules and Vern. I mean, that's very fortunate that they're both boys. Whatever. I guess Jules could be a chick's name. Vern.
Well, I mean, speaking of Ernest, he's got a neighbor named Vern, so there's there is precedent for that.
Oh,
Vern Troyer. There's a couple of famous Verns.
I know, but I'm saying if he had daughters, like it's very fortunate.
Yeah, I was very fortunate they had sons. Yeah, to name them Jules and Vern. I guess Jules, I think, could be potentially
Jules could be a girl's name.
Jules could be either or. I think that's kind of one or the other. Yeah. So I was just checking, by the way, to see that. Okay, so they're in 1885. I guess they would fact check it. I would imagine the writers would, but yes, in fact, real quick, Journey to the Center of the Earth was published in 1864, so that does track before 1885. From the Earth to the Moon as well, so because they talk about briefly about that, and from the Earth to the Moon that he wrote like about the capsules and going to into space, and yes, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1870 or something. His most kind of famous ones later on, Around the World in 80 Days. I don't know. Have you ever read Jules Verne? I've read a couple of those books. I've read 20,000 Leagues and Journey to the Center of the Earth. Yeah, but
I haven't read them, but I only know of them because of the movies. I know that I saw the Brendan Fraser and then the Rock movie, the Journey, and then
when they did the sequel without Brendan Fraser and just jumped to the Rock. Yeah, I know.
Jumped to the Rock for no reason, but I still had Josh Hutcherson in the movie.
Yeah.
And then I know, like but like when you get taught about Jules Verne, like in school and stuff, because he's like obviously this iconic author. So I just haven't sat down and read them, but I've only just started getting really into reading and like sort of this stage of my life. So you never know, they're probably hard to track down these days, but I might give them a read one day.
But I mean, it's kind of cool that Doc's a fan, and he finds somebody to kind of bond over, so they have some common interest in science and whatnot, so they have this nice little cute romance, and he's definitely got the kind of puppy love eyes that he kind of falls for very, very quickly, and she does too, to be fair. They kind of fall for each other, but it's a thing where they can't, Doc's worried they can't be together, and he starts to kind of have second thoughts. Maybe he's going to stay, just help Marty get home, and Marty's trying to convince him no. It's like that's a major thing where you cannot start a relationship with somebody that in history never had a relationship and wasn't even supposed to be alive at this point, right? Because they stop her from dying in the ravine. That's a serious kind of butterfly effect to history, dealing with anybody that she would then interact with from then on, essentially.
It's we've all been in tricky kind of logistical relationships. I think that one takes the cake, though. Don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, a relationship with somebody that isn't even supposed to be alive at this point in history. 100%. We get kind of the other the stuff with Buford ratchets up at the festival we talked about. The stuff with ZZ Top, is there, and it's a fun sequence. I mean, when they're playing, the kind of honky tonk, that's fun. It's catchy. It's a good time. It looks like a fun festival. I'd go to that festival. It looks like a fun time. They're shooting, having gun slinging, shooting galleries, and food and pies, and dancing, line dancing. It looks like a fun time for the most part.
That sounds fun.
But Buford, here's been my one little qualm with the movie. Here's a part where we can talk about James Tolkien too, because he kind of his maybe 2 or 3 primary scenes are kind of right in here. I will talk about one thing of his character in just a second, but he plays another ancestor of Strickland. He plays Marshall Strickland, kind of the marshal of the town, they're going to they don't want to check their firearms. They're causing a little trouble, and he's got the longest gun I've ever seen that he sticks in people's face. He's got an 8-foot rifle that he sticks in his face. Again, he pops up. He's sporting the the Western mustache, a giant total Tombstone-ish mustache there. But he does have a few moments where he's just like Beaver's like, come on, Marshall, smile. After all his parties, like, the only party I'll be smiling at is the one that has you at the end of a rope. I'm like, God damn, that's cold. It's just like, I'll be smiling when you get hung, in a public hanging. Jesus.
Was this before he had? Was this after he actually the hanging scene that we talked about before, or the
Well, it's post that, because remember, he's out of town during that.
Yeah.
There's a door, there's a sign on the marshal's door when Marty's walking through town for the first time. That says Marshall has it. We'll be back in a few days. He's gone to oversee the hanging of like Stinky something or whatever, some outlaw. So he's actually not there when they attempt to hang Marty. Essentially.
Yeah, because that's where you get introduced to Doc Brown as well, because he says,
Yeah.
But I'm just imagining like RJ Fox is probably glad that they didn't try to do it again. It's like, man, you almost I was going on conscious the next one. I don't want to do it again. That's just playing my part. Just don't actually hang me, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, right. My one little hang up is Buford goes to like ambush Doc or whatever, right? And they get in this thing. He literally, when Marty thwarts him and Doc is like, "Damn you, Tannen!" Like he points his gun straight at Doc and is only thwarted because Marty throws the pie plate, right? But he straight up does attempted murder on Doc, right, in front of everybody at this festival, correct? So why is Buford not arrested for attempted murder right then and there? Like this marshal is not a very good marshal, I would say, if he's not arresting a Tannen for having a secret gun when you were supposed to check all your firearms, right? He uses it and attempts to murder one of the citizens of your town. He should be in jail at this point. Like this showdown shouldn't even be happening. If I was doing my job.
Yeah, there might be some bit of corruptness going on there. I don't know. Just yeah. I don't know. Sometimes some things you turn a blind eye to. I'm not sure.
I guess because he's like, oh, if there's any brawling, there's 15 days in the camp. Well, fuck brawling. He just tried to shoot a guy right there in front of everybody.
That's a bit worse.
That's worse than a fist fight, at the festival.
Brawling, you get bruised, cut up, maybe concussion. Shooting, you'll die.
He tries to shoot him in the head. Yeah, he tries to murder the guy. Yeah, that should be not 15 days in the. That's at least a year in the county jail, I would think. But okay, so I don't know. It's my one little hang up where it's like they arrest him, later, obviously after the the duel and the showdown for they did successfully, I guess, rob the the stagecoach, the bank stagecoach. But and they arrest him for the robbery. But yeah, the dude should be arrested not only for robbery, but for attempted murder, personally. But okay. Anyways. Yeah, so it kind of sets up the showdown that Buford and Marty Mr. Eastwood are gonna have, out front at Monday. But of course, it's the same day that the train is gonna leave, so it's gonna be kind of cutting it close. But yeah, Doc decides that he can't. He's got to use his brain. He can't take Claire with him. They have kind of a blow up where he tries to explain, the truth that he's a time traveler. She's just like, "Listen, you could have just told me you didn't love me. You want to see me again." Just slaps the shit out of him. Just like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't believe you. Yeah.
Like she'd rather like to be told like that. It was kind of a funny argument.
She's like, "Yes, I understand that because I love Jules Verne. You think you can just pass it off that you're some time traveler? Okay, whatever.
I get it. Okay,
yeah. So,
you think I'm dumb? Yeah. You think those books are real? Okay, fair enough.
Sure. So you're a crazy person. You're more. Yeah. So So he's heartbroken. He tells everybody he decides to just throw it out the window. He doesn't care anymore. So he's gonna go to the bar and tell everybody about the future all night and tell them all tales of the future. And of course nobody believes him, but they find it amusing.
Yeah, and because he's like, sort of burying his sorrows in alcohol. It's just like you just write him off as drunk.
Even though he's not drunk, he hasn't taken a single drink yet. He doesn't take a single. He asked for the whiskey, but he doesn't take a single drink.
He plans to. Just like, oh, he must be a drunkard who's just come in here to drink.
You're like, how many has he had? And he's like, none. That's the first one. He hasn't touched it yet. So, but no, it's a good time. When he finally takes one, he passes out because, man, one shot, man. I don't know. It must be some strong ass whiskey, or you're one weak sauce dude. Because I swear, one shot puts you down. I don't know.
He got warned to not drink it either. As well, like, no. Like, and then he just went,
Yeah, yeah, it just completely passes out. Yeah, right on the table. But kudos to the stuntman who did that, by the way, because that's a total like trust fall onto that table. You know what I mean? Like that table just totally collapses and he just falls on his face. But yeah, but no, it's a very funny thing. Yeah, because they got to sober him up. Buford shows up. Wants his duel. Doc kind of comes to, but they still got a showdown they got to deal with. And yeah, as was kind of foreshadowed in, if you remember Back to the Future 2, when Biff was watching Fistful of Dollars, the Clint Eastwood movie, where in that movie, Clint Eastwood kind of wears sort of a secret, metal bulletproof vest. Sort of thing, Marty does the same thing. He puts on a stove, kind of a door, steel door, protects himself and beats the hell out of Buford and dumps him in the manure as he always is one to do. It's again kind of it's a Western, Richie, so you have to have like a Mexican standoff kind of a duel, right? Yeah, you have to. So. Yeah, you have to have one of those. But yeah, so we get that. We resolve all that. We move on. Clara's on the train, but she hears that he, had a meltdown essentially in the bar in the saloon. So she goes to change after him, and everything kind of culminates, to like we talked about this train sequence. And man, this train sequence rips, dude. It's really good. I've always loved this train sequence, man. It's a fun sequence because it's this train progressively them using kind of science and technology of the time to get around the problems, but seeing this train just flying by and then kind of jumping the trains and climbing around them and things like that. I think it's a ton of fun, and climbing all over it and trying to figure it out, and the combination of the practical stuff and the model work I think is really good. It's great.
Trying to save Clara, who is trying to climb up, but then gets caught upside down. Then we get the hoverboard. Then they use the hoverboard. It's very. This is why trains are a good tool for the action stuff. That's what and I think Raiders should have shown you that the trains are cool for action. But it's a really good. It's really cool. Really cool sequence of events, and you're not really in worried that they're not going to make it or anything, but it's still it's still very heart pumping in the way that how just cool it looks and how it all comes together.
Yeah, well, and there actually is some a bit of attention because they go past the point of no return, and Doc and Clara, get off the train successfully, but they're not in the DeLorean, so they don't go back to the future. Yeah, that's what I mean. So that is like, okay, wait, well, Marty got back to the future. What the hell's going to happen to them? So obviously, he didn't get shot by Buford, so he's not going to die. You kind of wonder, what's going to happen to them. So there's a little bit of, stuff left on the table there. And by the way, the train, they throw off the cliff there. They made essentially a model train, like exactly like kind of the big one. It was about the size, the height of a person, about a 6 foot tall train, and pretty wide as well. But they essentially built out, the same kind of, end of the track, and a much smaller valley, not a giant cliff, to scale, obviously. But the way they shoot it, of course, it looks like a big, giant fall. And they shot it, and they only had one shot at it. So they had one model train they had built for like a month. these prop makers, put together this whole thing. So they had to build it exactly right. They had to build it in a way also that it would kind of fold in on itself, when it went off the thing, properly. And they shot it with 6 different cameras in the valley, and then added the kind of pyrotechnics that happen once it does crash, things like that. So it's a pretty cool little effect, and it's pretty flawless in the movie. It really looks like they throw a big train off of there, for what it is.
And there's a lot of pressure to be put on this, don't there? It's like, well, that didn't go off without a hitch. Release date delayed. Gotta
give us another month. We'll build another train. And do it again. Exactly. So, they got it right, and it looks good. Marty gets back. the DeLorean gets destroyed because he goes back on the train tracks, and as soon as he gets back, train is coming the other direction and plows through the DeLorean. So, but it's what Doc wanted. He wanted the time machine destroyed, and it is now destroyed. And he meets back up with Jennifer. He learns his lesson to where he doesn't race Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, in his truck. Who wants to race him? Always fun to see Flea playing Needles, in 2 and 3. He's fun for what he is.
And he still pops up and shit.
He still pops up occasionally in different movies and whatnot. He's an older gentleman now, but he's still doing his thing and still playing. So that's fun. They go to kind of. He goes to show Jennifer the last remnants of thing, and out of nowhere, Doc pops in very inexplicably and not explained how he has a steam train time machine that can fly. How I don't know. It's just one of those things, Richie. One of those movie endings where you just have to completely 100% suspend disbelief in this part.
Yeah. Like, how long have you had this? Why did you use?
Well, just how logistically would he make this in the Old West still? That with the technology that he has. Yeah.
And like, how long did it take you to? How long did it take you to make? Like, it didn't take you that long to get back in. I don't know. But, I don't how like. There was a lot of questions you're not going to get answers to because
here's the thing. The only thing I can think of, but even then, he still doesn't have he states very clearly he doesn't have the electrical parts and all that to fix the time circuits, right? Like until 1947 or something is what he says, right? So even if he made, let's say, I'm just throwing something out there, he made like a phone booth time machine like Bill and Ted, right? Not like a train or a DeLorean, correct? He just made a time circuit in some way to use it, to travel through time. Like, would he have to bring all the pieces back from the future to then make a train to then convert the train and make it fly? I don't know. Like, it just you don't want to think about it too hard or blood will shoot out your nose. But
just like it is. It just is. You just gotta go look at it what it is. Like, hey, that looks cool. That's what that's what happened. Don't think about it too hard. All right.
Yeah. Don't think about it too hard. Him and Clara had 2 kids named Jules and Vern. They have a flying train time machine, and they're, I guess, having adventures through time. All right, cool. That's fine. But you know what? It's a fun ending that it's just like, hey, what's going to happen next? I don't know. They're all just doing their own thing now. So, but again, for a rollicking, kind of fun final shot, it's a good time for what it is. And as you said, that really was essentially the final shot of Back to the Future, because the only things we've had in continuation of that, you mentioned that Telltale video game, which I've not played through it, but I've seen some of the cutscene stuff from it. They kind of jump back and explore some of the other side characters and some of the other ancestors, things like that, which is totally fine. I have no problem with them doing like a video game and exploring other things. I have no problem with that at all, because it's not like it messes with the movies. You can totally just take the movies for what they are, and not do that. They had the Back to the Future the ride, which I went on many, many times at Universal Studios in Orlando. And if you want to ever see the ride video and all the pre-show stuff and the actual ride videos, you can go on YouTube and find it. It's all out there. You can easily find all that stuff, and it was fun. For what it is, they brought back Biff, and it's Doc and Biff, and they're having a little kind of chase through different time periods. It's fun, and we had the animated series, which I've only seen a little bit of. There was an animated series,
only a little bit.
I haven't seen much of that. I know they only brought back a few of the people from the movies to do voices and whatnot, but I think it was just like a season or 2. I don't think it was that much. And ever since then, no other sequels or remakes. And you know what? Better for it. I think that it's kind of cool, like I said at the beginning, Richie, that we still have this trilogy that's still a true trilogy, that we have not had any follow-ups or remakes or anything else, and it still existed as a very popular franchise, even with just the 3 movies.
I think even, like I said, even as money hungry and powerful as CEOs are, I think that even they're in their money greedy heart have a soft spot for Back to the Future, and be like, and I'm like, nah, because even when they, even if they was, they talk about exploring remake options, I don't know if it was like ever like full on with it. It was just like sort of they're probably just half-heartedly like, hey, we're just talking to like Tom Holland, like, hey, would you do it? And he was probably just like,
No. He's like, no, I don't need, I know any of that. No, I'm good. Yeah.
and so and yeah, like so yeah, I think it should some things should just like stay as they are, and Back to the Future is definitely that trilogy that just leave alone. If you want to do, like we said at the start, if you want to do a time travel, if you want to remake another time travel movie, go ahead. But remake movies that weren't great in the first place. I think that we're talking about before.
Yeah, ones that, I mean, that had good premises that maybe didn't exploit them all great, or could do with an update in technology, or things like that, or maybe had stuff that wasn't fully realized. I'm totally fine with that. We talked about The Running Man last year. As much as I love even that old Running Man, like I was totally fine with them doing a more kind of faithful adaptation with a new take on it. Totally fine with stuff like that. There's other time travel movies you could do it. Totally do a new version. We had that Guy Pearce one in 2002 of The Time Machine. Like, you can totally do another one. I'm fine with that. If they want to do H.G. Wells' The Time Machine again now, in 2026, 26, like, I'm fine with that. I have no problem.
Surprised they haven't given that H.G. Wells, kind of well. Surprised they haven't. So I'm cool. I'm pretty cool with that. Yeah, cool with any other. But I think just Back to the Future is like, sort of like a museum item. You don't touch it. You look at it. And you're like, you appreciate it, but you don't. Yeah, you don't touch. It's just
well, and I think the three primary people involved with the franchise, Bob Gale, the writer and producer who did all three of them, Robert Zemeckis, obviously the director, and Steven Spielberg, who of course was very heavily involved in these movies and produced them, have all pretty much said, like, as long as we're alive, it's not getting touched. And so Bob Gale's in his 70s. I think Robert Zemeckis is let me see how old he is. He's 74, so he's not that old. He's going to be around for a little while. And even Spielberg, who I think is the oldest out of them, I believe he's about 80, I think, something like that. I believe. Let me double check that because I click on Amblin. Yeah, he's 79, so he's not even 80 yet. They've all said pretty much, hey, as long as we're still around, Jaws ain't getting remade, Back to the Future ain't getting remade, Indiana Jones ain't getting remade. It's just not happening, so hey, I can at least appreciate their stubbornness, and I think somebody like Spielberg, Richie, actually has the power and the pull in Hollywood to flat out refuse stuff like that. He does actually have the pull for that,
Just a quick little side note. Speaking of Jaws, I rewatched Dangerous Animals, the Jai Courtney movie. On the back of the DVD cover, it says like the best reviewed shark movie since Jaws. I'm like, could that be true? And then I'm like thinking about it, and I'm like,
maybe
it might be.
Well, I mean, but I think it still stands to test. And again, not to get a tangent on Jaws, but Jaws set such a goddamn high bar in 1975 that nobody's been able to touch it in 50 years, right? Like, as far as shark movies, the fact that every other person is like, not a single one of them is as good as Jaws. The most you can be is like in a top 10 shark movie, but number one is always going to be Jaws. And the best you can hope for is you'll be in the rest of the list, along with like The Shallows or Deep Blue Sea or something,
That's what I was thinking, Shallows, Deep Blue Sea. But your Dangerous Animals pretty up there, to be honest. But that's kind of weird because it's a good movie. But I wouldn't put it in the best or anything. But I guess Shark,
I mean, but again, there's nothing that's ever come close, So he did it so well that it's just like it set this bar that can never be touched. So it's kind of crazy, Like it is what it is. The best you can hope for is gonna be like the second best shark movie, ever made. It just won't ever be. Even and they said even a high degree with Back to the Future of time travel movies, like the best you can do is be like, in the top 10 of time travel movies. Can you really be the best? Because when you look at time travel movies, right, what's usually number one or number two? It's like Back to the Future, right? It's like right up there. It's like that, and maybe it's Terminator or T2 or that sort of thing. Like, it's just
Ted, if you want to put
but I mean, like, that's what I mean. Like, they set such a high bar that it's like you can't ever really touch it. It's just always kind of going to be at the top. So they did it so well.
So it's one of those. I think the three that I think of that shouldn't be touched are Back to the Future, Jaws, and then Godfather. You know, you could try and make, you know,
Yeah, right.
yeah. And I think you know, I think people know that no, you don't, you marvel at these movies, but and yeah, you can do, you know, you can do kind of, you know, you can do TV shows about making the you know, like thing like The Offer.
Yeah, The
Or,
Offer was great, and that was a great way to approach it. It's like, yeah, do a TV show about making The Godfather. That was cool. Like, I'm down with that. And kind of where you're sort of recreating a few sequences and whatnot. You know, there's a few like things where they're sort of recreating a few sequences here and there, you know, within the show. But it's not like a total remake or anything like that. I would say if they ever touch The Godfather, I don't think it would be in movie form. I think it would be in like a TV form. Maybe they would just expand. Yeah, expand on like the book stuff.
HBO TV kind of like
Yeah.
Sopranos vibe, kind of, yeah, like that kind of,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could see that.
I could see that, and then it wouldn't impede that much on the movies. You know, I think it would be kind of like what they're doing with Harry Potter, you know, that sort of thing, right? So, yeah, where it's like kind of just a different take on the book, you know, the source material sort of thing, right? So, I could see that.
Yeah. No, I could, but yeah, I think, but yeah, like as far as movie adaptations, I think Back to the Future and yeah, Jaws, and you know, and Godfather, and there's probably a couple others that you know, like they're in that museum. You can make stuff like, you know, maybe around them, but you can't actually do a full on remake. Can't do it, yeah, like that. They're untouchable. They're good for what they are, and you just marvel at them. You just look at them. Yeah.
Look but don't touch. Yeah, right. Yeah, admire them, but don't. Well, and it's because they still hold up. You know, they don't have a lot of dated elements to them. You know, Back to the Future kind of feels timeless when you watch it because it's bouncing around from the different time periods. It feels timeless. You know, it doesn't feel like there's not a lot of dated materials in there. There's not a lot of like big pop culture references for the most part. You know, it just kind of feels like a timeless adventure. Yeah, same with Jaws. It's like it's just kind of a timeless movie. You know, that you can just pick up and watch at any time and it still works. You know, it's still there's a reason why they're still doing you know, just last year, 40th anniversary re-release of Back to the Future. You know, people are going, you know, that sort of thing.
No, I don't think it will. Yeah, and I think it's just spans generations. Like it, you know, even you know, we joke about how like, you know, this generation doesn't know about certain things because they weren't born. But you know, even if I mention Back to the Future, they'll, you know, I think their parents are smarting them up. Like they know what they know what it is. Yeah. Because I said, oh yeah, I got to watch Back to the Future 3 for this podcast I'm doing. And they're like, oh, Back to the Future, yeah. But you know, she's my other kid's only like 19 and 20, so yeah. But she knew what it was. So yeah, I think it's big enough that, you know, it's just crossed over there with generations, and yeah, it's just become its own like huge pop culture phenomenon as well. So
yeah. So final thoughts on this particular movie with Back to the Future 3, Richie, and we'll start wrapping it up here. I know again we started kind of it's weird that we're jumping into the third one, you know, here on Wheel of Movies, but hey, we follow the wheel, you know, wherever it goes. So this is what it is. Maybe we'll spin, you know, like I said, we'll spin part 2. We'll talk about part 2, you know, at some point just randomly, because those movies are all over the wheel, so we probably will.
Well, I think it's nearly on most people's like top list. We did.
But your final thoughts on this one. We'll start wrapping it up.
Like I mean, if we're like probably ranking the 3, it's probably my least favorite, but that's not saying a lot because they're all great. They're all like great in their own way. But yeah, like this is you know, and it's a great cap off to a trilogy, and so. I think I knew we were going to watch these eventually, and you know, it was a great rewatch, and it's one that I go back to. It was probably, you know, I never watched as much. I don't think many people have watched it as many times as you, but I will. But I've definitely watched it like quite a few times. So, and it was always good. It's always good to go back into that world. So this was fun.
Yeah, no, and I've had these movies, ever since a kid on VHS. So these movies are burned into my brain. They got a ton of play. I've seen this movie as long as the other two, probably hundreds of times, and that's not an exaggeration. So yeah, I didn't necessarily need to rewatch it for this one. I know it beat for beat, but I did anyways because yeah, it's still fun. And as really, and it's interesting. My relationship with this movie has kind of grown because as I've become more of a Western fan, as you probably know, Richie, like in getting more into Westerns as I have. As an adult, getting into especially the Clint Eastwood Westerns and the spaghetti Westerns, and just like digging into kind of Western lore and really appreciating that genre as I have as I've gotten older. I've appreciated this movie more for what they do. Throwing back to all those nods to old Westerns, throwing back to old stunt work and the art direction and all this stuff, and the character actors they put in these movies that I'll go back and watch like a random Western from the 70s and then be like, oh my god, there's two guys from Back to the Future 3, like right there, something like that, or whatever, like just there's just random Westerns that I'll see those guys or read the credits and I'll recognize a name from the credits of this movie and I'll be like, oh, that's cool, there you go. So that's where they got them, so that's always fun. I've appreciated all the little nods, the fact that Marty's wearing like the man with no name poncho, and some of the classic Western tropes of the cutting them off at the pass and the duels and the standoffs and the train stuff. It's a lot of fun. And a shout out by the way to Alan Silvestri for tweaking like all the main themes to like Western-y themes, for like tweaking it around kind of the Western vibe while still maintaining that classic music. So shout out to him for really kind of adding to that, especially the final sequence is great. He's always amazing. So yeah, great movie. I don't know where it ranks. I have a hard time ranking these three movies because it's really like I almost have them almost equal to each other in a degree. Like I've just watched them so many times that when I was a kid, if I watched part one, I had to immediately like watch part 2 and 3. So to me, it's just like one big movie, like one big just one big saga, for what it is. So I kind of have a hard. If I had to lock it down, maybe like 1, 3, 2 or something, but again, it could be 1, 2, 3, it could be 2, 1, 3. I don't know. They're all about the same. It's very minuscule, things. They're all in my 120. I love them all. So, it's to a very degree or another. So, but great stuff all around. So, so that's Back to the Future 3. And we'll start wrapping up here. Excuse me, Richie. Anything you want to plug or get out there as we wrap it up tonight?
No, Lonely Mark's here in a minute. Just doing predictions for Dynasty weekend, and then just talking news, I'll be on Rankin doing movies about food, so check that out. It's not more. I'll be on Tournament Fights doing Malcolm's. Wrestling related tournament fights birthday episode. So you check that out. That's pretty what I've got coming up in the near future. So check me out there. Yeah. And okay, come back here a couple weeks. We'll spin the wheel. And
we'll definitely spin the wheel here in the next couple of days. I'll get Jordan to spin it for us. And pending any major, Hollywood deaths or anything like that, we'll keep on the wheel as long as we can. Spin it again and see what happens. Maybe we'll spin Back to the Future too. Who knows? There's a distinct possibility. Always that we will. You never know. As far as here on the Movie Network, Richie mentioned we got Malcolm's birthday wrestling tournament coming up tomorrow, so you can check that out there. We got some more Seen and Heard trivia coming up next week. Jordan's already working very hard on doing another edition of movie trivia. We just did TV trivia the other night, and that was a ton of fun. Doing some TV shows, so mixing it up on Seen and Heard. That went really well. We got a movie one coming up next week. And then I've been on Ryan Cam, Jacob Cameron's channel a couple of times. We filmed, and he dropped his 1996 series. We dropped a review of Tremors 2 Aftershock. So I talked to him about that for about 20 minutes or so. So that was a good time. And then next week we'll be taping one for the 25th anniversary of The Mummy Returns, which I got to see in theaters for my rewatch because my Regal actually showed it for the 25th anniversary. So that was interesting. So not as high on that one as the first one, but we'll talk about why. We'll get into it in the actual review. And we'll still have a good time talking about that as well. So that's kind of what I got going on. So we'll wrap it up here. for now. And yeah, we'll get to the Lonely Marks here in just a few minutes. I will drop a link to that in the Movie Hero Network Facebook groups. You can always find that over there, and we'll talk some wrestling. So yeah, that'll do it for now. So for Richie Goodacre, I am Austin Pez Howell, and we'll see you guys next time on The Wheel of Movies. Bye.